Happy almost Halloween, folks. Shall we talk about something a little bit scary? Like the terrifying speed of the passage of time. Exactly 1 year ago, we moved from the grey UK to colourful Italy. But what have I learned so far? Was it what I expected? Has it been worth it? Let's see. Here's what Italy has taught me since last Halloween. Breaking through immediately with one of the stereotypes, but the food really is as good as everyone says. Like, really. It's no secret that Italian food has had a serious foothold across the world for decades now. So many countries, even those incredibly far from the Mediterranean, have a spin on an Italian dish or its core ingredients, for better or worse. The UK especially has treasured Italian-inspired restaurants for as long as many of us can remember, with at least a few in every single major city. All that considered, Italy has a serious reputation to stand up to when it comes to dining. And honestly, from what I've seen so far, it absolutely does. Far from the supremely stereotypical restrictions of albeit world-class pasta and pizza, this country really knows good food and good quality ingredients. Whether you're in a side street osteria or restaurant, a charmingly kind of grungy family trattoria, or just a cheap roadside bar, it is genuinely pretty difficult to eat poorly here, even on a very strict budget. Everything from the cheese to the bread to the beans to the fruit just seem to taste better. Of course, modern-day Italy has the junk food trappings of the rest of the developed world, and it does it pretty well too, but it still seems to prize good and, above all, fresh cooking above all. People really take it seriously and take pride in it too. Knowing how to throw a good meal together is second nature to many more people here than it is back home, in my experience. Male, female, young, old, wealthy, or struggling, most people just seem to kind of care a bit more how they eat here, which for someone like me who takes great joy in eating anything and everything is an absolute pleasure to live around. Mealtimes are important and should be treated as such. Something that shocked me when I first arrived in the north of the country was the way everything just kind of stops at lunchtime in many places. While obviously I can't speak for more metropolitan areas such as Milan or Rome, in many places in Italy, the hours of like 12 till 3:30 are for lunch break. Not for work, not for shopping, not for running errands, just for lunch break. It's not like the whole nation is sat around a Godfather-style table for a hefty banquet in the middle of every weekday, but many shops, public services, pharmacies, etc. are shut for a good 3 to 4 hours, many afternoons, all across the country. My very British brows kind of furrowed initially at the consideration of lost business for owners or inconvenience for full-time working customers, before remembering that, not everything has to be about making money, as it is in some other places. And just as it's common to take proper breaks for eating, it's also very normal for meals to be eaten around a table together here. I grew up in a similar way in Scotland, but I can't say that a large portion of my dinners weren't also eaten sat on the floor while glued to the TV, quite rightly, as a teenager. A table full of plates to share and bread to tear apart here are seemingly more important here, even if it's just a weekday lunchtime. And I think that certainly beats the British tradition of soggy sandwiches in cardboard and a half-empty bag of crisps scoffed on a strut back to the office. With the very obvious mention of food out of the way, I must also add that there is absolutely a reason that people love Italians as much as they do. The stereotypes of loudness, passion and short tempers are wonderfully and entertainingly true of some. However, a more consistent theme of honesty, authenticity and warmth are so much more prevalent and important. In my still obviously very limited experience, Italian people have an incredible sense of humour. They also often seem much better educated socially than the culture that I grew up in when it comes to friends, family, and even to strangers, with a lot less kind of awkwardness and a lot more openness. Also, despite a couple of uncomfortable encounters with people who didn't want to give me the time of day as a foreigner struggling with the language, most people in all kinds of settings have been unbelievably patient and accommodating. It's not very easy to make friends as an adult anywhere in the world, let alone in a completely new country and culture. However, people's generosity and warmth here has helped me so much to emerge from my own little shell overall. And something else I've noticed is that, just generally speaking, we should all be a bit more grateful without wishing to sound like a church sermon. I mean this for locals, immigrants, for everyone. There are days I wake up here and I can't believe the sun is still shining and the sky is still blue again. But there were days that I woke up in Scotland and couldn't believe that some people go their entire lives without seeing a lovely, crisp, fresh white blanket of snow. Italian kindness is deep and sincere, but sometimes I do miss that excessive British politeness and, above all, good manners. People here in Italy complain of 15 degrees Celsius being far too cold. People back home would complain of 20 degrees Celsius being far too warm. Taxes are higher back home. Income is lower here. The food is awful back home. The kind of cozy tea culture is non-existent here. I could go on forever about everything. No country is a haven of perfection, and no culture is inherently better than another. You can't enjoy the slow, relaxed, and leisurely Mediterranean attitude to life and to many things and expect that kind of cold northern efficiency at the same time. Instead, you learn to kind of cherish, enjoy, and really value both, even learning to be a bit of both, to be grateful for how you grew up and for what a new place can teach and offer you. Ultimately, leaving your comfort zone is wonderful. Absolutely terrifying, but wonderful. And it's difficult to emphasize exactly how important this is. Whether it's new friends, a new relationship, hobby, job, city, anything, leaving your bubble is sometimes, quite unfortunately, vital for growing and for just enjoying things. Even if the only thing you take from this new thing is that your comfort zone is what you actually prefer, at least you'll be more grateful for it afterwards. My comfort zone is the kind of formal yet expressive English language, staying warm indoors and cups of overly milky tea. But my new reality is the musical, beautiful and, grammatically nightmarish Italian language, wearing SPF every day and drinking double espresso. It's difficult, undoubtedly. Sometimes, very often actually, I can't express my views or feelings as well as I'd like to in my new language, despite having lawyer-level eloquence in my native tongue. Often I don't know how to buy something in a shop here because browsing, queuing and purchasing customs are completely different. And I must admit, I often still look the wrong way when stepping out onto a busy road. That said, literally never in my years of formal education and work do I feel like I've learned anywhere near as much as I have in the last year, as horrendously cliche as it is to say. I've had, in my life, major mental health hurdles to overcome, dealt with grief, handled, law school and ended painful relationships, yet nothing quite feels as entirely informative as these past 12 months have. You're kind of naturally forced to become more independent, more attentive, more receptive, and more inquisitive just to kind of exist. And it's great. Moving to another country is obviously hardly a luxury we can all achieve or afford at any point in our lives. It's something I certainly never thought I'd be able to do. However, if you can, even just to move far away within your own nation, it's something I will never stop recommending, even if it's just for a short while, seriously. I'd like to say, on top of all that, an absolutely enormous thank you to every single person watching and to those who have been watching over the past year. You have stuck with me through the challenges of new filming locations, chaotic life changes, and, somewhat completely re-engineering my entire life. It's been great to see that Italian living has been a positive change for the most part through vlogs, what I eat in a day videos and recipes. And I really hope that you and I will both continue loving this setting as much as we are just now.